Welcome back to Future of Film podcast. My name is Alex Stoltz, and as regular listeners know, this is the show where we share insights and strategies from the pioneers, trailblazers, and disruptors who are shaping film's future. Today's episode explores the frontier of interactive filmmaking with filmmaker Paul Raschid and Howe, the founder of Stornaway, the development tool designed for interactive video production. Paul is the director of the recently released branching narrative feature film The Gallery, which comprises over 4.5 hours of video content. In this conversation, Paul and Rue share insights of how they took what was a 450 scene script into the finished feature film using Stornaway's bespoke platform. We also talk distribution and audiences as Paul reveals how releasing the film on gaming platforms provides him with a transformative direct-to-consumer route for his craft, something which I think is truly powerful. And by the way, if you want to find out more about Stornaway, check out stornaway.io. If you're enjoying the show, just want to find out more about Future of Film, head on over to the home of Future of Film. That's futureoffilm.live. Here you can dive into all 5 seasons of the podcast and explore some of our other FOF resources like the Summit and Incubator. And if you're not already, why not sign up for our monthly newsletter? We've recently revamped it to include not just the latest from FOF, but new opportunities in the space and our pick of the latest articles on the future of screen storytelling. So that's all of the Future of Film resources and news available now at futureoffilm.live. So that just leaves me to say thank you for listening. Now please enjoy this conversation with Paul Raschid and Howe. And I started the conversation by asking Paul how he first discovered interactive filmmaking.
Well, it was something that kind of found me. So the last sort of linear film I made, the traditional film I made, was called White Chamber, which was a sci-fi film that released in, it played loads of festivals in 2018. And, luckily, thankfully, sort of our lead actress, Sean McDonald, won a Scottish BAFTA. So that one it put me on the map for sort of other producers kind of thing around the world. So eventually, John Giwa-Amu of Red and Black Films, based in Cardiff, he sort of saw the film and really liked it and sort of reached out and said, look, I really like what you did with White Chamber. I've got this sci-fi project which I'm producing with Jade Alexander, and it's an interactive film. And at that time, Bandersnatch had just come out. So this was January 2019 when John reached out, and December 2018 was when Bandersnatch had released. So it was kind of something which had been put on the global map literally a month prior to this conversation starting out. And sort of, I've always been sort of a casual gamer as well as a film fan. So it was kind of, and even in my film work with White Chamber and other things, I always played around with sort of story structure and, fragmented timelines. And I always was playing around with structure. So I think my mind was already kind of geared in a way that was, able to adapt to what the requirements of being able to handle branching narrative and stuff like that with interactive. So I kind of, I grabbed the bull by the horns, so to speak, even though Bandersnatch had just come out, and Wales Interactive, who were doing the publishing on the Complex, which was the project, had done Late Shift, which had released in 2016 or something. There wasn't really a language written at that time, a widespread language that everybody knew. So I kind of had, it was exciting and a bit intimidating at that point, because you're kind of going into it and you're like, I don't really know where to start with regards to sort of adapting a script and then how you carry that forward to shooting and so on and so forth. So it was kind of a real sort of, I was being chucked out of the nest and being expected to fly. But over the that one turned out really well. And since then it was kind of, and I think because they go straight out to the gaming community, they get released to a whole new audience that I think that there is quite a hunger for the niche in some ways. So that it kind of meant I was able to then sort of go on to do 5 dates, which was the follow up to the complex that we shot in lockdown 2020. I also did a short with Goodgate and Wales Interactive called Death Trap Dungeon: The Golden Room, and then now I've set up my own production company with my dad, and we made The Gallery. So this is our first project sort of on our own, and also 5 dates. I've just wrapped a couple of months ago on a sequel to that called 10 Dates, which is now in the edit. So it's kind of been the most since January 2019 up until now. It's sort of been a really productive period of my career, just being exclusively involved in this interactive film niche. So yeah, it's been a really interesting journey, which I'm really enjoying continuing. And Stornaway I think it was February 2020 when Rue and I first connected on The Gallery, and that's just been such a it's kind of revolutionized the workflow. But I'm sure we'll get onto that shortly.
Yeah. So I just backtrack. How many projects have you made since 2019?
I've done The Complex, which was a feature, 5 Dates, which is a feature, Death Trap Dungeon: The Golden Room, which was a short, The Gallery, which is a feature, and 10 Dates, which is a feature. So 5, 3 of which have been released, and 2 of which The Gallery is hopefully releasing within the next 2 months, and then 10 Dates will. I don't know, maybe towards the end of this year or beginning of next year.
And I mean, you say they're features, but also they are like they have many hours of gameplay and many hours. Like it's not a multi-minute feature.
Exactly. Yeah, The Gallery has 5 hours and 8 minutes of content that is, in total, of which you will then experience in various different configurations. That will be around a 70 to 80 minute playthrough.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Okay, so that it sounds like productive is definitely one word to describe that period for you. So yeah, I want to talk about Stornaway and how that collaboration worked. But before we just go into that, or maybe as a way to go into that, tell me about The Gallery. What was your vision behind this project? This is the first one where you're doing it in your own production company. What is it you wanted to achieve with that? And tell me about how it came about.
Well, first and foremost, with The Gallery, was a project. It's kind of been a passion project of mine since I think it was about 2015, 2016 when I first sort of got the idea, which I know it sounds ridiculous, but it came to me and it was the idea of it. I dreamt it. And then it was one of those where you dream and you wake up and you scramble for your phone and then write it down. And then the next morning you're trying to decipher what you wrote. And then you kind of you run from there. But yeah, since then, the hostage thriller has always been a subgenre, I guess, of the thriller genre that I've really loved. It's been, some of the, I think of things like Phone Booth. I think of things like Buried, which it's kind of it is a hostage thriller as well. So there are loads of hostage thriller films that I grew up really, really enjoying. So I always want to make one of my own, and I guess art has been something that was always kind of an interest to me as well, especially portraiture. So it was just kind of a melding of two things I was really interested in. But it was always, so it started out as a linear project that I wanted to make. And it sort of, for whatever reason, the pieces never fell in place to make it properly. So until it came to a point where I was I knew I was setting up my production company, and I was okay, what's the first project we want to do? And I had a few of these scripts that I'd written, and The Gallery was always, top of those scripts that I wanted to make. And I was okay, perhaps this would, I could interactivate it. I could adapt it to being an interactive film. And yeah, as for the genre that it is, and what I've been learning from making all these interactive films is that, I guess it's the thing that you set out as a screenwriter, that you always need to make, your stories have stake and have, and have high stakes choices for the protagonist to make. So in the same way that within interactive, any story that has, stakes and stakes on each decision that the protagonist make, and you're just giving that agency on those decisions to the audience. So that's why it works in and hostage thrillers, sci-fi thrillers, rom-coms, because, you know, if you're going on a date with someone, it's just a series of micro high stakes decisions that you're making as you're sort of going through things, which is why 5 Dates worked really well in the format as well. So it was just kind of a natural fit, and it felt like the right time that the gallery could be interactivated effectively, and just built out and expanded, and we were able to sort of explore the themes even more deeply and interestingly by melding it with the interactive format.
Yeah. And at what point did you then start working with Stornaway on the project?
So funnily enough, we'd started shooting, and we shot 2021 February to March, and it was February, it was Valentine's Day 2021 that Stornaway followed. I think it was you guys followed me on Twitter, and then I looked at Stornaway, I was like, oh my God, this is like a company that is strangely doing the exact niche thing that I need, because and you know, being able to author and build your own interactive narrative was something. It wasn't the workflow that I'd done previously. Up until then, I was sort of doing the edits and stitching the scenes together and putting them side by side on Avid with my editor, just to make sure they flowed into each other. But it was and then we handed it over to the games publishing company, and then they built the engine. But I never had an insight into that side of things at any point until, you know, the offline edit, basically. Whereas what Stornaway did was it was literally this web-based, extremely user-friendly mechanism by which I could literally build the gallery, the flow chart. So the way you write the script is you write a flow chart, which with all your scenes are linked together, then you write the script. So I could literally, while we were shooting, it was this easy, like working like full shooting days to shoot about sort of 10 pages a day, basically. But it was still so easy for me to come home in the evening and still kind of build this thing on Stornaway from my flow chart and build it. And then literally while we were still shooting, I had the Stornaway build, and our editor was sending across rough cuts while we were shooting of scenes. And I was able to literally start dropping them in and have a playable set of sections as we shot, playable interactive versions of it. So I could literally go and show the actors, this is what we're making, this is how the scenes are going to flow into each other, this is what it looks like. So I was able to go and show the cast for the first time ever, show my cast and the crew, this is how it's going to all work, it's all working together, this is the kind of thing. So they actually had a very clear visual of what we were making and how it would work as we were doing it. So, and then that kind of just carried through, you know, having that as a blueprint, having that Stornaway build has just really made the workflow across the back end as well completely seamless, because everyone's been singing from the same song sheet.
Yeah. So it's like your blueprint for the story to start with, which then you can, and then you layer the script on top of that, and then you can also input the video as well. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. Amazing. Rue, is that how was it feels like Stornaway has accelerated rapidly in the last couple of years. Tell me about was that always your vision for the platform, people using it like Paul is?
Yes, you were talking, earlier about this being a new genre, a new format, the word that we tend to use now is category. It feels like a new category of content that's complementary to the other things. And I think the way that we think of and have thought about Stornaway always as a new category of video editor. There have been these ages, these eras of editing that have gone through film. I've been lucky enough to do all of them: film cutting and also a bit of tape cutting and reel-to-reel tape, and then nonlinear editing. And as all of the platforms that everything sit on move onto these amazingly seamless touch-enabled streaming platforms with broadband and 5G, the ability to create interactive experiences, even just their links at the end of videos that take you on to the next thing. Previously everything has been made as single individual clips that get posted into places, and now everything is getting linked up. And I think what we wanted to do, my background as a filmmaker, shooting and cutting on 16mm, and then working in technology workflow for edits, is trying to enable creators to do exactly what Paul's doing, to be able to edit together interactive experiences without having to do any coding, and in a way that sits in the workflow, so that you can do it while you're shooting, you can use it to plan, you can bring it into the edit, and it can form a kind of game engine, a codeless game engine backbone for your offline, if you're online, all of final post that Paul is doing. And then you can either deliver it via Stornaway, or you can then deliver it out to another platform. So that, the project file, like with an EDL, or, like with any kind of interoperable standard post-production data format, you can take the Stornaway project out and put it into something else. And what we are using Unity to do that. And Paul and Edgeloop, who he's working with, are using Unity to create the package that goes out to all of the apps, but he's sort of brought in the Stornaway project as stitched together and as edited, then to be delivered out that way. And we have a Unity package that means you don't have to use Unity, which everybody opens up and freaks out as soon as they open. You don't need to know any of the coding. You just drop it into the plugin, and then you've got a packageable app that you can then use Unity's ability to turn into all these different things. And having that ability to, the difference between, I guess, other platforms that have done interactive in the past have always been constrained by having to deliver to that platform, like a walled garden platform. And the way that post-production and film production has to work is you don't know what platform you're going to be delivering to, or you need to be able to deliver and package out to multiple different TV platforms. So that workflow and flexibility was part of that, but making it really easy for creatives and not using lots of technology that makes them feel sad.
Which is key. Tell me about the Unity part. That's really interesting. So is that in effect piecing it all together so you have the choices appear in the format, and the user can click on those and all of that side of it?
Yeah, I mean, the core part of, Stornaway is going to change a lot over the course of the next few years as well. But, the core part of it is creating essentially a branching narrative with choices on screen that you click on to, and people are using, obviously Paul is using it in to create entertainment, TV, video games, full motion video games. There are lots of people making it, we have 10,000 plus users now using it in education and training, and people using social media, and lots of people doing very different things with it. But the core of it is you're connecting up different clips with links between them that appear on screen, and the Stornaway game engine does all of that behind the scenes. You draw it out in a story map with these things called story islands that are little blocks of content, and you tie them together visually, and then you just click play and it's instantly playable, and you've got a playable interactive experience. The Unity part of it is that we've recreated that part of the game engine in Unity already, so you don't have to do anything else. Basically, whatever you see in the Stornaway web player, you can export your project file, drop it into Unity, and then instantly everything that you've designed in Stornaway is visible and playable in exactly the same way within the Unity playback engine. And also it's coded in a way that Unity has done all of this amazing work on packaging out to iOS and Android and Apple TV and PlayStation and Xbox and all these things. So the coding doesn't have to be redone. We've kind of got that package there, and we will do it in Unreal as well. It just is about at the moment it's about managing. We have to match what's in Unity to what's in Stornaway, and as we grow out, we'll do it out to those things. It doesn't really matter about it being Unity versus Unreal so much at the moment, because you're not really having to do any specific coding in it. You're just literally taking what you've made in Stornaway and being able to deliver it in multiple different places at once. I think one of the things that Paul said in the last time we were talking together was about this direct to consumer opportunity for filmmakers that is as streaming platforms have taken the revenue stream directly to themselves, we've lost the ability to be able to sell DVDs directly. I'm going to talk for you, Paul, but you're more eloquent about it than that.
But I think that's one of the areas that I think it's appealing to a lot of independent filmmakers. is that, with the way we are now is obviously there's no DVD market. There's very limited opportunities to sell on things like iTunes and Amazon, and get revenue from there. And obviously cinema now is very hard to access, especially if you're an independent project. It feels like the only way, one of the very few ways to get your product out there is a streaming deal, and then obviously the return on investment for investors and producers and stuff on that is kind of it's up in the air. So being able to make something that you can put yourself out to a huge audience. In the gaming audience is the biggest audience really at the moment, and they consume independent projects. They are very open to consuming independent projects and buying units, buying things unit by unit, as opposed, which is kind of like how the DVD market was sort of 15, 20 years ago. So you're going out to a huge audience who are very hungry and open to new forms of content in that way, which is very exciting for independent filmmakers and game producers and everything like that. So it's just Stornaway and being and Unity in itself, the way that it can export to PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo Switch, Android, iOS, is very exciting, and Steam, of course, which is the biggest one in that sense. So it's been really interesting being able to branch over to a whole new audience as well.
Yeah, no, that's really exciting. And so I suppose all of those platforms, some of them have gatekeepers, I suppose, if you like, and some of them less so, maybe like Steam. But is it then about how you find yourself, how you get discovered on the platforms? Is that, what have you found that's been successful in terms of your projects finding that audience there? And also another part to that question, are you able to sort of engage with that audience directly as well? Do you get like feedback, or are you able to capture their email addresses or anything like that, so you can keep that discussion?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really interesting question, which again loops back to why it's so exciting being able to tap into a whole new audience, because I guess obviously gamers, it's all people of all ages, but definitely I've noticed sort of like Gen Z, the youth, sort of, you're talking that 14 to 25-year-old bracket, who are Gen Z, are that video games is now kind of the top of what the content that they're consuming, and they are extremely active on social media and things like that. So what we found is organic growth and organically finding an audience is so on gaming platforms it's really things like Twitch, where if a popular Twitch streamer streams a game and it get their viewers start seeing it, and they put a tweet out about it, or if it gets viral on Twitter, or a clip of it goes viral on TikTok, or a sound from it goes viral on TikTok, we're finding that there are so many interesting organic ways via social media, word of mouth, more for independent games, more so than anything, as well as sort of the communities that they have on platforms like Steam. Like that, the rating system on Steam is massive, because there's a huge culture of writing reviews and message boards and stuff like that. So it's actually obviously the films that the interactive films I've been involved in, live action video games, they've all we've had PR campaigns and marketing campaigns, very very small, because it's still working at a low budget indie level, but the organic growth of it and the organic thing of people finding it and it kind of like 5 Dates was a big hit in Turkey because some of the big Turkish streamers streamed it and their audiences really loved it, and it kind of it really became quite a popular game there. So it's a really interesting thing, and there's no real I couldn't really give you an exact answer of how to build a successful campaign, because a lot of these things are organic, which is also very exciting for independent filmmakers if you don't have a massive PR budget or a massive budget like that, because these there are other ways that these things can happen.
Yeah, but it's I think you compare that, like you said, to finding an audience for a movie, and the idea of you could do something fairly organically for a film is really very, very difficult, I think. So that's really exciting. So when you're positioning it to those audiences, or the proposition for them, is it like this is a game, or how do you describe it? How do you describe the format to the audience?
So I've always felt that the format is its own thing. It's a confluence between film and game. And if you've got like a spectrum here, we like to think we sit right in the middle. And then you've got film here, you've got game there. And I think these are two formats that over the past few years have been trying to, coming closer and closer together and collaborating, whether you're talking about, film games having more cinematic cutscenes and longer cutscenes and motion capturing, famous actors and things like that, or you're talking about on the film side of things, video game adaptations. You think of something like Free Guy, which is the Ryan Reynolds film, which is basically, it's set in a massive video game. Story structures are becoming quite gamey in certain films as well. Or you think about something like The Witcher, which is another big video game and novel adaptation. So I think these are two formats that have been trying to coalesce over the past few years. And I think that, the live action video game or, interactive film, whatever term you want to use for it, is that perfect confluence, because it is both in some ways. And, within that spectrum, you can, veer a little bit closer to the film side and make something a bit more cinematic, which I think the Complex was and the Gallery is, or you could have something that's slightly more heavier on the game mechanics and a little bit more gamified. Some people have said that 5 Dates might sit in that camp. It is its own kind of new format. And, I would say it is kind of a fusion of both film and game at the same time. I wouldn't say it's one or the other.
You're listening to Future of Film podcast with me, Alex Stoltzen, in conversation with Howe and Paul Raschid, talking about the future of interactive filmmaking. If you're enjoying the show, why not sign up for our monthly email newsletter, which you can do at futureoffilm.live. When you're creating these projects, Paul, what are the biggest challenges for you, I suppose, as a writer initially? How do you? There's obviously there's some of the challenges I guess Stornaway is solving, but they're still thinking about the storyline. What do you wrestle with?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, right the way through is, you have to deal with the fact that you have to shoot a lot more content. You have to have more content, but in some ways that is quite liberating from the writing point of view, because obviously I'm speaking to a room full of filmmakers and screenwriters, and you guys will know more than anything that when you are writing, you are planning out your screenplay, you'll have a multitude of ideas of how a scene can pan out and what a character can say or do, or what could happen, but you always then have to hone in on one thing that you choose. Whereas with the interactive element, when I'm building a flowchart at the start, I could have about 3 or 4 ideas, and I could include all of them as separate branches, as a decision that could get made right at the beginning, or something that happens as a consequence that happens before that you may or may not have done before. That can, and you don't need to throw out all of those ideas necessarily. And it's something that actors I've find really liberating in a similar kind of way, because they have the equivalent, they have their rehearsal period, where they will then explore a character and explore kind of different ways they could take the character and different ways they could react in a situation and explore them emotionally. And they don't necessarily need to chuck all of that stuff out after the rehearsal period, as they would do, if they were shooting a linear film, where they have to make make a choice of how they interpreted a scene. They could explore all of it. So it's liberating. I mean, I'd say the workload is higher, obviously, but in some ways it is a lot more creatively liberating, because you can work with more of your ideas. You have to chuck out less of your ideas, basically. So it's kind of there's pros and cons.
Yeah. Rue, what's your observation from filmmakers tackling this space?
I think that Paul's massive experience and the way that he's devised his own workflow, a while ago now and has gone through this many times. He has a lot of great wisdom about this, and anybody in the group should definitely pick his brains about anything if you're embarking on anything that feels in any way branching. I think getting to know him as he was in the process of shooting the gallery with its 5 hours of content in a 6-week shoot in COVID, getting it all in the can and it all being great. And not just that, but doing it across 2 different timelines where one, I don't think he's mentioned, but one part of the story happens in 1981 and the other one happens in 2021. And the same protagonists reverse roles. So you choose to be at the beginning of the film, you choose to be the man or the woman as the protagonist. That means that you see the whole thing in 2021 or 1981. It's a great concept, carried out really well, but it basically meant that he not only was shooting, more than a feature for once, he was doing the same thing twice in 2 different time zones. And that level of organization, I mean, obviously he has a great producer, but he was able to conceive of all of that. That preparation is obviously massively important. And I know that from one of the motivations to get to build Stornaway is being around people who are trying to get their heads around this without the tools and without the planning. Is people can go, Charlie Brooker talked about making Bandersnatch, sending everybody bananas because they just couldn't get their head around it. They didn't have the tools. Nobody knew what was going on. The actors didn't really know what was going on. And and there has been some other stories like that from the past. And I think that we're developing, as Paul talked about, language, workflow that will help people get the most out of it and stay sane. You've just finished shooting another one, haven't you, Paul?
Yeah. So thank you for that. The 10 dates, which was the sequel to 5 dates, which again is it's, as you can imagine by the title, it's doubling the amount of content that was in 5 dates to 10. So it's it is you have to shoot a lot more content, but there is a way to do it and there is a workflow to it, and I think we've with Stornaway playing a huge part in that, especially at the back end. That has now kind of become more seamless in my mind of how to do it. So hopefully that'll encourage, there's a blueprint now, and that will encourage more people to get involved because, I just think it's a format that I believe in. And I think, there's a growing appetite for it. It's as I said, I think, I've been on interviews before where people have been like, oh, do you think it's going to replace normal films, or do you think it's going to replace? I don't think it's going to replace anything. It's its own form of content. I think we live in an age where everyone is consuming so much content. I mean, last week I was watching four different TV shows at the same time that I had to get through. So we're all, consuming content has become, the premier pastime of us as a society. So, there's only space. There can only be space for more things to come for people to experience and enjoy in different ways. Yeah. So that's why, I think I really hope more people get into it, and that there'll be more projects out there that explore different genres and structures and all sorts. So I think it's exciting times for the interactive format.
Definitely old school, particularly TV people, but film and TV people have, from the 90s through to the noughties, were obsessed with this idea of lean back versus lean forward, of the idea that, we were going to stop leaning back and everybody was going to be leaning forward. It was this sort of binary thing. And you still hear people talk about that, when new people come to, as if they haven't noticed that everybody has an infinite amount of interactive content in their hands all the time, that they're constantly engaging in interacting with stuff, that we live in this space where we're not leaning back or leaning forward. Sometimes you want to veg out and binge watch Stranger Things, and sometimes you want to skim through an infinite amount of TikTok, or these different things have different modes of mind.
Yeah. I'm interested that the 5 and 10 dates have done particularly well, because I wouldn't have assumed that romance would have been the natural format or natural genre for this format. But yeah, tell me, that's really, really interesting. Tell me, what other genres you'd like to explore, and I suppose why you think the romance one worked particularly well.
Well, yeah, it's an interesting. I guess it loops back to what I was saying before about that the format lends itself to anything that has high stakes is high stakes decisions, and that as any screenwriter wants to make, no matter what genre they're writing, they should be including those those beats in their stories. So and that whether that is life or death in a horror film, and you're being chased by a killer, and do you hide or do you keep running, or you're sitting at a date opposite someone and you're attracted to them and you want to get them to you want things to go well and try and make sure that there's chemistry between you and ignite a spark. Every decision you make in that pressure cooker environment is high stakes as well to the player. So it was something that I sort of in theory thought was like, okay, this could work. And especially there's lots of people who Love Island, which is playing at the moment, is like, it's people, in the nation love it. So, and you think of reality dating shows like, The Bachelor, The Bachelorette. I could go on and on about all these popular dates. So it's a genre within, film, reality TV that has, from the start of time to the end of time will always be popular. So why not in the interactive format, I thought, and that worked really well. But like I said, one of the most influential projects on me in learning the language was Until Dawn, which is a video game, but it's mocapped. Rami Malek's mocapped in it, Hayden Panettiere is mocapped in it, as well as sort of very other well-known film and TV actors. So it was kind of a very good crossover project. Maybe again on that spectrum, leaning a lot more to the game side of things, but it was very cinematic in its guise. And they just released one of the successors to it, The Quarry, which released a couple of weeks ago, I think. So those are horror films, and again, The Gallery is a hostage thriller. I'd love to experiment with. I'd love to try and tackle comedy next. Like, I really think that would be a genre I really want to kind of engage in and see how it pans out. But I just think, like I said, any genre which has high stakes decisions, which most film scripts need to have in anyway. So in theory, any genre could work interactive. We just want more people to be out there going out and making it happen.
Yeah, I love it. Do you think the streaming platforms are going to start adopting this a bit more? Obviously, we had the Bandersnatch moment, and there's been other projects on Netflix in particular using the tools. Yeah, do you think that's like inevitable they'll start taking it up, or do you think it will be more of this direct to consumer approach you'll be?
That's a good question. I think Rue's probably better qualified to sort of answer how that's going in the future, because I think what Stornaway has done is, I think a lot of the problem was it's the back end. Because, prior to something like Stornaway, it was all, build it on Unity, game engines. Then how do you implement that game engine into a streaming platform? Whereas, the genius of Stornaway is that it's web-based, and it is, which was, like, even for me, in 2021, I'd never had something as easily accessible. Or, when we did build it, we were able to send links of the Stornaway build to people to play it through, which again was something I'd never had the ability to do before. Because if anybody was like, oh, I want to check it out, potential investors or people or film festival programmers, it was always like, oh, so you've got to download Steam, and here's a Steam key, and you've got to put the Steam key in, and it's going to be like 10 gigs downloading onto your laptop or whatever. And then people are just like, yeah, no, I was not interested in that. So with something like Stornaway, like, I really feel like, take the reins here.
Yeah.
It's opened a lot of doors in bridging that gap between, on the back end of things.
I hope so. That's definitely the idea. And it's a long game, we're playing a long game with this. I think, Netflix are entirely data driven, and they are undergoing their own headwinds and their own issues at the moment. But it's they've been really quietly making, everybody knows about Bandersnatch, and it won the Emmy for best TV movie, not interactive thing. All the other interactive things have always won interactive awards. This won the main event TV movie award, and everybody knew about it. It was a viral hit. But actually, they've also been quietly working away on like 25 plus other shows and series that have been released so far that people don't really know about. A lot of them are aimed at kids, and kids love them, and they're built on the top of other brands. And it's because they are a churn buster. The thing that Netflix is constantly trying to do is find other ways to engage people, to incentivize them to subscribe, but also to, incentivize them to not unsubscribe. And that's why they're also investing in games really heavily and buying a game studio. And so I expect to see a lot more from them. And they're talking about, they went quiet for a little while because they didn't want to reveal their kind of strategic secret weapon. They started to talk about it a lot more now that they need to tell their investors not to run away. And I think the other platforms were waiting to see what way the wind was blowing with them, as we've been in continuous conversations with a lot of the other big platforms, and they've had other problems to deal with during lockdown, but they have different projects in different stages of development. And a lot of that is, for some of the bigger platforms, delivering out an interactive player as part of their main platform on every device is a challenge. And Netflix decided boldly, because their content and product departments work very closely together, to only release on certain platforms. And I think other people who shall remain nameless, quite a lot of them, want to do everything universally on all platforms. And that's always a bit of a challenge. So I think it's going to happen. It's just going to take a while. But also they just need to see the chicken and egg thing of the demand for the content and the need for it and how it will work. All commissioners instantly think, well, it means I'm going to have to shoot 10,000 times as much, because it just keeps branching and branching and branching. And you have to have the stories like Paul's. There is some, weirdly, Britain is this crazy bubble of interactive filmmaking expertise. There's Paul and Sam Barlow, who made Her Story and is just releasing this new film that I can't remember the name of. And there's Flavorworks, who made Erica, and they've made a new series as well that they're coming out with. That are also based in the UK, and Wales Interactive, who Paul's done a lot of work with, released a whole sort of stable of different films. Paul's helmed a lot of the big ones, but they're across a lot of different things. And as that comes out, as you look on the Steam charts, you can't see a lot of the activity. If you look in Steam Spy and you see the revenues that these films are making, there are a lot of film. There are a stack of a few dozen films out there that have made $1 million in revenues just from Steam. And that doesn't include iOS or Android Store or PlayStation or Xbox. So there's some profitable business out there to be had. And obviously some of the companies that are in there are talking to production companies about that. And they're holding the reins on all of that. That's great. It'll unlock as the technology becomes available. I know, the BBC have been interested in this, but they've been struggled to get their producers to understand what the potential is, to use their amazing in-house technology that they built, that we also, can integrate with. And so that, as that chicken and egg thing unlocks, as more content gets made, the demand will be shown, and then the technology people inside the companies will say, oh, maybe we should put more effort into that. But that's over the course of, interactivity in our media platforms is not going away. And I think we'll probably see more of it emerging in things like TikTok. We're already seeing stuff using YouTube's quite limited interactivity.
Vimeo just rolled out interactive tools that you can do on there.
They did. They just bought Wirewax, who are an amazing interactive video tools for sort of shoppable video, particularly, but do lots of branded content, and they've incorporated their editor into Vimeo for enterprise customers. So I think their starting price is like £10,000 or something. So you have to be a serious big brand wanting to get involved with it. But it's one of, again, like Netflix, Vimeo's share price has gone from $50 to $6 over the course of the last year. And it's one of the things they're shouting about. They're like, transform your video by enriching it, by allowing access to it. People are using it for all kinds of ways to just unlock content, get deep into it, allow layers to it, connect it all up in ways that make sense to us, because there shouldn't be this binary world of like websites or this thing with text with videos embedded on it, and videos are just like dumb blocks that sit without anything on it. You pause an Amazon video and you get now all of the people in it, and all of those kind of layers of stuff are just going to keep unlocking over the next few years.
Yeah, it certainly feels like it's the direction of travel rather than the opposite way. Yeah. Shout out to Jack Attridge and Sam Barlow. We got episodes of them on the Feature a Film podcast. So we've definitely been exploring this as well over the last couple of years. So Paul, I'd just like to end this really inspiring and fascinating conversation with you, if I may, to tell me what's next. What are your ambitions and aspirations for your future projects?
Well, next for the rest of the year, once the gallery's out and 10 dates have finished the post on that, take a little break, because that's sort of the next in the immediate future. But I think I've got projects that I've got in the pipeline that I want to make next. I want to explore different genres, like I said, comedy, animation. I'd love to, explore 2D and 3D animation as an interactive film, because again, at the end of the day, those are the ones where, you can really expand the possibilities of what happens. Because and it's kind of harking back to the origins of the genre. So, actually, this is in some ways the second wave of interactive films, because in the 90s, Kate of Stornaway actually has done an amazing history of the FMV or live action video game available on YouTube if anyone wants to check that out, which tracks sort of the origins of it back from the 80s, I think it was, when they had like Dragon Quest.
Dragon's Lair, was it? Yeah.
Dragon's Lair, exactly.
Yeah.
Which is like a 2D, a really cool, and they actually played it on Stranger Things, didn't they? The kids were playing it in an arcade. So, I'd love to sort of do something which was kind of, explore animation as an interactive, as well as, different genres. So I've got a few things in the, scripts that are sort of like in development and stuff like that are in the pipeline that I kind of just want to, and then just see what the next correct step to do is.
Amazing. It sounds so exciting. So yeah, thanks so much for this. Congratulations on the gallery. I can't wait to play it, experience it. And yeah, great to also catch up with you, Rue, and hear all of the progress on Stornaway. But yeah, fantastic to hear what you're up to, guys. Thanks for joining the Future of Film podcast.
Thanks for inviting me.
Cheers. Thank you, Alex.
This episode was recorded as part of Future of Film Incubator 2022, was made possible by our founding partners, Autodesk, NVIDIA, Dell Technologies, Garden Studios, and Epic Games and Unreal Engine. You can find out more about Future of Film Incubator and all of our other activities at the home of Future of Film, futureoffilm.live. So that's it for this episode. Thank you again for listening, and I look forward to welcoming you back to the podcast very soon.